They're for your 50th episode. We're celebrating.
The 50th HR Like a Boss podcast interview. Hello there. This is John Bernatovich, your host of the HR Like a Boss podcast. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with a friend. I've embarked on a journey to get to know amazingly awesome HR and business professionals, and I'm trying to understand what it takes to do HR like a boss. On today's show, I am delighted to be joined by Liz Lamping and Katherine Miller. They both work at the Pittsburgh SHRM organization called PHRA. Liz and Katherine, welcome to the HR Like a Boss podcast.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for having us.
Great to be here.
This is a very special episode. First time I've had two guests on at the same time, and also behind Liz and also Katherine, there's balloons back there. Liz, what are those balloons for?
They're for your 50th episode. We're celebrating.
The 50th HR Like a Boss podcast interview is amazing, and I'm doing it with people from Pittsburgh. I'm from Cleveland. What in the world's going on? Because they're my friends. We all love HR, and we're super passionate about it. 50th episode, super excited. Couldn't think of two better people to have on the show.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having us. Before we do jump in, I just had a quick question. When you started your podcast, did you have an idea as to how many episodes you were going to do to help craft your HR Like a Boss book, or were you just going to go run with it?
I love it. Liz is asking me questions. She's flipping this around. This is what it's all about. That's why I wanted her on the show and why I asked her. To be perfectly honest with you, Liz, I had no idea what this was going to turn into. What actually happened, the podcast was created out of doing some interviews of some amazingly awesome HR people that I recorded on Zoom. So I could remember what they said, and I didn't forget some of the words, and I could quote them in the book. And then my marketing director, Bridget Klein, said, that might be a really great idea for a podcast. So we reverse engineered a couple of the episodes to turn them into a podcast. And then from there, we created our very first show, which we had Tim Sackett on. If you know the HR community and his disruption, Tim's a good friend of mine, and he kicked off or launched the HR Like a Boss podcast. So congratulations for all the listeners for making this a possibility, and we'll celebrate it throughout today's episode as much as we possibly can. So what does the purpose of HR mean to you, Katherine?
To kind of summarize it, I think the work that the folks in HR do and are responsible for is really important. HR is the backbone of an organization. And I think the purpose of HR is really to acquire, develop, guide, and retain the talent within the organization. So success within those responsibilities can really look different between any two HR departments, but the end result really should be a well-oiled and efficient team that is, the driving force behind the organization meeting its business goals and any of its objectives.
Over the years, I've kind of felt like HR is really the heart of every organization. And if HR stops working, everything is eventually going to stop. So whether it be from the operational side, where HR is contributing to the growth through the managing the full employee life cycle, to the administrating the benefits and implementing the policies, to the less quantitative side, helping the employees thrive. It's HR's purpose to provide all the employees career growth opportunities. And we're all familiar with that saying that managers aren't born, managers are created. And it's HR that is doing that training and really having that vital role in making sure that the environment is thriving.
All right, so Liz, we'll go kind of round the horn now on this next topic, which I know you probably are seeing this quite a bit as you're putting together all of your events. The folks that are members at PHRA, what do they want to hear about? What are the trending HR topics that are most important to your members?
I would say in Pittsburgh right now, the trend that's front and center on our members' minds is innovative and diverse recruitment strategies. Since hiring is picking up again and companies are struggling to fill these positions, the war for talent in Pittsburgh is going to continue to grow and intensify. We're starting to see that members are the traditional recruitment methods are just now ineffective, and companies need to broaden their horizons when they're finding the talent and defining the talent that they want.
I'll never forget, I was watching TV about a week or so ago, and my wife asked me, why in the world is that company advertising on the television to recruit talent. She had never seen an ad before on TV for recruiting, right? And now it's pretty prevalent. They were spending millions of dollars to try to attract talent through TV ad spend. You'd never seen that before.
No, and that just goes to the point that recruiters really need to think outside of the box, and companies as well, when it comes to capturing top talent and standing out against the competition. And caught your wife's attention, and I'm sure it caught many others too.
Yeah. Catherine, you seen anything from your members as well, or just the companies you're talking with?
Yeah, of course. So I think we are kind of in a unique position because our membership is directly sharing with us their experiences what they're seeing. So we're hearing about the trend straight from the mouths of the practitioners themselves. So like Liz had said, diverse recruiting strategies are definitely at the forefront of their minds. But just to kind of stem off of that a little bit, another trend that we're seeing is the employer's focus shifting more from just diversity and inclusion within the workspace to including equity and including that piece within their driving goals and their values. So the equitable piece is really key to a successful organization, and making that a focus really opens up the door for transparent conversations and the resulting actions on things like pay inequities or inequities within hiring, overall representation, things like that. And within the last probably 6 months, I'm hearing more about belonging, adding into the diversity, equity, and inclusion piece. So the belonging piece is really centered around like the human and employee experience of feeling respected and valued for their true authentic self. And according to SHRM, the need to belong in the workplace is second only to the need to belong at home. So it's really interesting to see that play out now. And belonging in the workplace can take form in many different ways, like establishing employee resource groups or mentorship programs, or even the onboarding process, including information that represents and all kinds of different identities. So that's been something that we've noticed a lot as well.
If we talk about recruiting, or you talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, et cetera, there's a transformation going on. Have you heard or seen or had one of your members share an experience of where true transformation did take place? That is transformation truly something that you've seen, and maybe our listeners could learn from that experience?
The PHRA has been very fortunate to have leaders at the helm of our association that have been extremely transformational. So our leadership isn't afraid of change, and we embrace it. And when COVID hit, we knew overnight that our whole business model had to change, and we really didn't have any time to overthink how we were going to do it. We just needed to do it. And we quickly began using, I'm not sure how many of the listeners are familiar with Colin Powell's 40-70 rule for taking action. And if we had 40% on board with the changes, we were ready to make a move. And if we waited for 70% approval, we waited too long. So it really helped us to make some quick decisions and kind of transform our association. Our leadership didn't panic. We kept focus. And again, the presidents all at the helm were transformational in the sense that they pulled everyone in, spread ownership across all of our committees, our board, our volunteers. Pulled everyone in to make those important decisions, and we used innovation to creatively solve the problems of the day and those that we were anticipating coming down the pike. They've built a leadership network of trust, an environment that's open, collaboration, creativity, all the things that a leader that is running HR like a boss needs. So I would say the PHRA is a true example living through this COVID, pre and post now. Hopefully more moving towards the post, have been transformational to keep our members and continue to advance and serve the profession.
All right. Well, one of the pillars of doing HR like a boss, and at the foundation of the book, is this thing I call ownership, true ownership of what it is that you do every single day. And I'm curious, what does ownership mean to you in the field of HR?
I think that this question is a great tie-in to the transactional leadership, and a transactional leader really does a great job of spreading ownership across the organization. So my definition of ownership would be being accountable and driving something to completion. So someone with a strong sense of ownership would say, I need to do this task, I can do it, and I therefore own the responsibility for achieving success and completion. It does not mean doing all the work. And it does not mean escalating the issues to superiors is off limits, but it does mean being proactive in your role and understanding your purpose, your job duties, and helping you to achieve the larger company goals. As I mentioned, I think at PHRA, the volunteers take ownership of all the great initiatives and programs, and because they're passionate about seeing our profession go. So I feel passion and ownership go hand in hand for success.
Liz answered that question phenomenally, and I agree wholeheartedly with everything she had said. We're both so proud of our volunteers and for their creativity and their passion. They really are the driving force behind all of the initiatives that we offer at the PHRA. But to add on to that just a little bit, I think and feel that taking ownership of HR can also really be synonymous with being adaptable, in that trends within the work environment constantly change, employee needs change. And it's really important that HR is able to stay current and responsive to those needs and changes rather than just remaining stagnant and kind of going with the flow. So, I mean, HR is constantly evolving, and it's not the same that it was 10 years ago, 5 years, or even last year for that matter. So an HR leader's ability or inability to flex and be adaptable will honestly directly reflect the success within the HR department and the business as a whole, and whether or not the goals are achieved.
All right, Liz, I'm going to get you out of here on this last question. Catherine, you can follow up with it. I always end the show with how would you describe someone that does HR like a boss?
Well, I guess I would go back to the purpose of an HR professional, and that really is to ensure the company's most important asset, its people, are being nurtured and supported to create that positive work environment, but ultimately supporting the company's mission and understanding the bottom line and how all the departments work together. HR professionals always, but especially today, I feel is being the company's moral conscience. I know leaders in major companies who are willing to step up and challenge their organizations to act in alignment with their values and their mission. And I strongly feel that if you're acting as your company's moral conscience, you're running HR like a boss.
I guess when I think about traits that make up a person like this, it's somebody who's adaptable, which is my word of the day today, flexible, somebody who's courageous, resilient, they're curious, always wanting to learn and grow, they're compassionate, and they have integrity, they're a good active listener, which is important, a great communicator, and they wear these qualities like hats. Like I envision them stacked on top of one another day in and day out, because to me, together, those qualities make a remarkable leader. And overall, I think their workplace and the organizational culture is better because of that person. And to me, that's somebody who does HR like a boss.
What an amazing show. Thank you so much to both of you for being on today's episode. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you for checking out the HR Like a Boss podcast. If it resonates with you, please consider leaving a rating and review. And better yet, subscribe and share with a friend. Until next time, let's continue to aspire to do amazingly awesome HR.